Hi guys, this is gsndown.com and I'm here with the Sony Xperia Z5 Premium, the dual SIM version, for a full review. This is the first 4K display phone we're testing here at gsndown.com. It looks like a gold bar. It was launched at IFA 2015 and people said that Sony didn't take enough risks. Well, the Z5 Premium is certainly a risk. You can find the phone on Amazon.com priced at $620, and now it's time to talk about the design. This is more of a phablet. It's a 5.5-inch diagonal phone that measures 7.8 millimeters in thickness and weighs 181 grams. It's actually 0.5 millimeters thicker than the iPhone 6s Plus, but 11 grams lighter. It looks like a gold bar, as I said before, but it's quite a long phone, so it's also quite massive and slippery. And when I say it's a long phone, I mean that it's hard to use it with a single hand, as you can see right here. It's an elegant device, make no mistake, and it's 30 grams heavier than the Xperia Z5. We got a metal frame that when you touch it feels like plastic. Strangely, we got a reflective glass back, even more on the chrome version, and not much has changed from the Z3 and Z4 Xperia generations. We got reinforced corners in case of a drop, and there's an atypical placement of the volume buttons, much lower than usual. Well, people say that they improve ergonomics. In fact, when you're trying to reach them, you'll make sort of a sliding movement and you will tend to drop the phone because it's slippery. But if you have a smaller hand, not like mine, you may find the volume buttons easier to reach. Anyway, we also get a camera button right here, quite comfy, and this phone is both dustproof and waterproof. It's certainly unique, elegant, but heavy and slippery. Now, as far as the hardware is concerned, we're getting here a 5.5-inch screen, IPS LCD, with a resolution of 3840 over 2160 pixels, which is basically 4K. Most of the time you'll be spending your hours and minutes watching stuff in Full HD on this screen. Only stuff you view in 4K is actually 4K. So if you're in the album app or if you're in the video app and watch some 4K content, the screen will go to 4K mode. Otherwise, you'll spend most time in the Full HD mode. Also, Netflix and YouTube offer 4K content, which will be displayed perfectly on this 4K display. You cannot notice with the naked eye the jump from the regular Quad HD or Full HD screens to 4K. Well, maybe from Full HD to 4K you will, but from Quad HD to 4K, no way, believe me. So we got this usual sample here, which we're going to enjoy on this large resolution display. As far as I know, over 8 million pixels here. We got a very crisp image. It's like it's pouring from the screen like a liquid. And the colors are great. They're very vivid, but there's no oversaturation, which is always good news. However, the view angles are not very wide, actually not wide at all. And not only in landscape but also in portrait, sometimes you lose serious wide angles, especially in the sun and especially if the brightness is not set all the way up. Speaking of brightness, at first sight I would say that the screen has good brightness, but then we got measurements and we found that the brightness is not good at all, and it's also very poor in sunlight, so the contrast is also a bit disappointing. So I told you before, there are a lot of pixels crammed into this display, which I'm going to show you right now, because we put the screen under the microscope and this is what came out. RGB striped pixels, a lot of them crammed into such a small space, but when the lux meter test was done, we only achieved 381 lux units, and frankly I expected more. This is even below the Sony Xperia Z3 that offered 401 lux, and below the OnePlus One that offered 404 lux. We do have some extra settings, but they will not save the day. They're rather related to colors, not brightness. Here we go, display, and we got image enhancement with X-Reality and Super Vivid mode that have to do with a clearer, more natural image and better colors. We have a glove mode and white balance with RGB sliders. That's all about the screen. The images look great, don't get me wrong, but the screen needs to be brighter, it needs more contrast, and if you're not planning to watch some 4K content, the 4K thing is only a gimmick. Now, as far as the raw power is concerned, What we're getting here is a phone with an octa-core Qualcomm Snapdragon 810 processor, as well as 3 GB of RAM, 32 GB of storage, and a microSD card slot that gives you an extra 200 GB. There's no lag, the interface is very fluid, and the device can run any game from Rayman Adventures to Asphalt 8, the latest FIFA titles, and whatever else you can imagine, and shooters as well. So this is Asphalt 8 on this generous resolution screen. And there's something I have to mention here. If you're planning on doing a long session of gaming, like let's say 15 minutes of the game Riptide GP2, well, you'll find yourself plagued by overheating. So yes, this device overheats. It reached a temperature of 45 degrees Celsius when playing the game Riptide GP2 for 15 minutes. So you should be wary of the overheating problems after a long series of games, but also benchmarks, and when using the camera for a long time, so temperature may plummet up to 45 degrees Celsius or even more. If you're wondering about the benchmarks, well, I have to say I'm surprised to announce you that the Xperia Z5 Premium beats the Samsung Galaxy S6 in the quadrant benchmark and the Galaxy S6 Edge Plus in the 3D Mark Unlimited benchmark, which is quite a feat. Also, it may share the HTC One M9 processor, but in Antutu it beats it and looks fine while doing that. So performance is quite good, more than I was expecting, to be honest, but there's a bit of overheating going on. As you can see, Asphalt 8 looks stunning here. Almost forget about the view angle problems and things like that, and we proceed further. We're done with the processor, performance and all that. Time to talk about the acoustics, and if you look closely, we got dual front speakers, top and bottom, and a confusing music player. I'm a huge fan of the Walkman player, but the music one, well, not exactly my fancy, so everything is confusing here. We got this section with too many options: play queue, artist, album, songs, folders, playlist. You get choked up by saying them, and then a ton of options like DSEE, Clear Audio Plus, sound effects, a ton of them, simply a ton. In the end, all that matters is the actual experience. Okay, so as you heard, clarity is okay, the bass is also quite good, nice guitar, nice percussion. However, the volume is kind of disappointing. It's a mid-level volume, and those options you just saw have to do with upscaling the music and upgrading it to high resolution and using DSEE technology. So that's it when it comes to the speakers. The experience is good, but the volume could be better. Of course, we have headphones, premium headphones, and they're comfy. I have to say that they offer great isolation, they have a pretty loud volume, they sit well in the ear, and the bass is simply great. So those are the headphones. You also have FM radio, obviously, and a pretty big remote with not that many buttons. Okay, we put the headphones to the side and go to our usual test that involves a decibel meter. Here we go. We achieved 79.8 decibels at the front of the device and 79.2 at the back. Everything below 80 decibels is a disappointment, and keep in mind that the Xperia Z3 offered 84.1 decibels, so this is a letdown volume wise. I expected more, but the general experience is good. However, just like the brightness, we need more volume, and there are a ton of options we don't need. Now, if you're wondering about the camera, this is a 23 megapixel shooter that measures about half an inch, and then there's the 5 megapixel shooter at the front for selfies. The main camera is capable of hybrid autofocus in 0.03 seconds and 8x digital zoom. There is no optical image stabilization, but the steady shot technology should help steady things up. If you remember the unboxing, we saw the typical Xperia interface. Well, I updated the camera, and with the update we got a totally new interface based on swipes. Okay, so this time we have the usual options here: augmented reality, 4K video, augmented reality mask, facing picture, panorama, and more to download. Then we swipe to video, superior auto, which does a fine job, and manual with quite a few extra options as usual as well. So resolution can be 23 megapixels, 28, 3 or 2. We have HDR, we have ISO, focus mode, metering, smile shutter, geotagging, and a ton more, as well as white balance and exposure. I didn't find the shutter speed, and that's pretty odd. Here we also have the scenes only triggered in certain resolutions. I have to say I like the idea that Sony is going with the less is more approach here, and we have a very fast picture capture and also very fast focusing on this device. Okay, I won't bother you with all the details. We have a huge gallery as usual, and we totally exaggerated with the number of captures this time, and you'll see what I mean in a minute. Okay, so we have over 140 items here, then 29 items here, and 51 items shot at night. So which one to choose? I'm going to go ahead and start with these ones. Those are taken at sunset. We got a bit of a graffiti action here. So at sunset, good brightness, nice colors, bunch of graffiti, excellent landscape shot, good texture and good details, good lighting and nice exposure. In all those 200 plus shots, you won't find one blurry one. And check this out, a close-up of an ice cream. Probably the best close-up I've taken over, let's say, the past trimester, and I've tested a lot of phones, but such texture I haven't seen before. So the camera handles close-ups excellently. Also details are very good. This is a shot taken during the night time with artificial illumination, and I have to say I'm pretty happy with it. It's very easy to say that this camera can easily fight the Samsung Galaxy S6 and even the LG G4, because we do have realistic colors, we do have quality items, and check this out, a sunny day at lunch, and not one thing is wrong with these pictures. Excellent details, good exposure, brightness, focus, and saturation. So basically it's a flagship level camera, can easily fight the Galaxy S6, LG G4, and it totally surpasses the iPhones, iPhone 6s and iPhone 6s Plus, through the simple fact it offers more details and more pixels are captured. And during the night time, well, here we go. I have to say I was a bit underwhelmed at first, but when the flash is on, results are stunning. We have a powerful flash, although a single LED flash, quite powerful. But in the end, some of the images felt bluish around the edges, and that doesn't make me happy at all. Those blue hues shouldn't happen for a flagship level handset. And they're a bit more grainy than the Huawei Mate 8, which remains the champion of the low light capture. Now, as far as the video is concerned, we obviously also did some video capture, looking like this one here. This is actually one of the worst captures. It's basically a bit burnt. We shot video on Full HD, 30 frames per second, 60 frames per second, 4K video, all of it is MP4. And let's find that 4K clip to actually enjoy it on a 4K screen. Here we go. While everything looks fantastically crisp, you cannot ignore the shakiness of the camera. And surprisingly, even lacking optical image stabilization, the stabilization is quite good through the steady shot option, which I activated, and then proceeded to climb a flight of stairs. We got 60 frames per second video, not this one, but the next one, looking great. And my only objection is that around the edges of all videos, the image feels a bit burnt where it catches the sun. There's no refocusing, colors look good, and I have to say that if you're planning on doing low light video capture, you better give it up, because it doesn't look good. It's also bluish and grainy. So while during the day it films better than the LG G4 and the iPhones, and maybe it's even on par with the Samsung Galaxy S6, during the night time it's below all those flagships. So overall, camera wise, the Xperia Z5 Premium is a top level flagship handset, able to capture more details than the latest iPhones. It's on par with the Galaxy S6, S6 Edge, and it can fight the LG G4 with equal weapons. We also did selfies, and I'm not very impressed by them, frankly speaking. Some attempts here, I've seen better selfies. looks average and the skin is a bit artificial, not my cup of tea. We're done with the camera, it's time to analyze the web browser, and we're dealing with Chrome here. So let's access gsmdome.com. Okay. Not impressive speed, quite slow browser, and the browser marks, SunSpider and Velamo results were still pretty good for this web browser. We got a comfy keyboard that's very well spaced, and now it's time to talk about the connectivity. So if you're wondering about the connectivity, this is a dual SIM phone. I said before, is the dual SIM version of the Xperia Z5 Premium with nano SIM slot. It has LTE category 6, it has GPS, Bluetooth 4.1, DLNA, MHL 3.0, NFC. Here you can find the slots. We have Wi-Fi with MIMO, the calls are loud and crisp. We have a clear sound, good signal, and perfect noise cancelling. And if you're wondering about the speed of your Wi-Fi downloads, don't worry, here they are. 26 mega per second in download and 27 in upload, so we're doing just fine connectivity wise. Now if you want to talk about the battery, we're dealing here with an unit that has a capacity of 3420 mAh, and on paper we should be getting about 2 days of medium usage out of this, but in our test, let's see what happened. So we put on the device for HD video playback in a loop with Wi-Fi on and brackets at 200 lux, and we achieved a pretty weak 7 hours and 5 minutes of continuous playback, even below the low-end Sony Xperia E4 or the low-end Amazon Fire Phone. So disappointing video playback time, and also disappointing the PC Mark test that simulates continuous usage and gave us 5 hours and 19 minutes. It's below the Huawei P8 and the Sony Xperia E4 yet again. That one almost reaches 6 hours. The charging of the Xperia Z5 Premium is done in 2 hours and 34 minutes, which is, I would say, reasonable but not fast. Obviously, we have some special tweaks for the battery, like the stamina mode, ultra stamina mode, and low battery mode, each of them extending battery life by tweaking standby, brightness, and various app access to the battery. Now we proceed to the software side of things. You probably figured we're running here on Lollipop, and this is Android 5.1.1 Lollipop with Xperia skin on top. One of the best looking skins I've seen, certainly very fluid and responsive, a lot of white here, and the apps are excellently rendered, and I mean app icons here. It's a glossy UI, it's very nice looking, it's cohesive with the other Sony products, with the PlayStation, with the Cybershot series, Walkman series, whatever you want. Good looking widgets too, and it feels really nice. Multitasking is based on a carousel and also includes these mini apps, floating apps. We've seen them before, but this time they get a new look, at least icon wise. The drop down area is typical with notifications and quick settings, typical for a Lollipop and Marshmallow device. And once again, pretty widgets, and also the themes are not too shabby as well. And you can get more of them from the store that Sony offers. Now in the settings area, you'll find connectivity options right here. Then we got themes, display, calls, sound, notification, power management, apps, users, tap and pay, and finally security, where we can check out the features of this fingerprint scanner embedded into the power button. Okay, so Fingerprint Manager, get started. You can choose a pin, and I have to say from the get-go that the setup process for the fingerprint is a bit longer than I would have liked it to be. So here we go, put the finger here, do that, let's say 10 times or so. And unlike other fingerprint scanners, this time you also have to press the power button when you activate the screen and unlock the device. So if I do this, it's not unlocked, but if I put my finger here, it should be unlocked. Well, let's try it again. So this and then this unlocks the device. Or you can just do the natural gesture and both press and get identified at the same time. There are devices out there that use a capacitive sensor and you only have to touch, not press, to unlock the device, so one step is skipped. Now as far as the apps are concerned, We have in total 46 apps pre-installed, pretty close to bloatware area, but we don't have a huge amount of bloatware here, to be honest. We have the typical collection of multimedia apps, we have weather, we have news, and then there's this interesting app called LifeLog, which basically logs your life. It allows you to monitor the steps you've taken, calories burned, hours of sleep, exercise, pulse, car rides, gaming, music listened, movie watching, theater watching, and all that. So basically it tracks your life. You have movie creator, sketch, track ID, Facebook and Dropbox, those PlayStation and PSN apps, the Google Suite, productivity apps, Play Store, and augmented reality effect, of course. And now we have reached the end of the review. It's time for the pros and cons and the verdict. This is certainly a good looking phone. It looks like a gold bar, I cannot highlight that enough. It's elegant and solid at the same time. It offers a crisp image on the screen, great colors, doesn't have any lag, offers good performance, even in comparison with the Galaxy S6, takes great pictures during the day, has pretty good stabilization, and has a great looking user interface, plus a comfy fingerprint scanner right here on the side. Those are the pros. On the con side, it's a pretty slippery phone, with low brightness, not so good viewing angles, a bout of overheating going on here, low volume, selfies that are not convincing, and poor street light behavior when capturing low light shots, poor battery, once again poor view angles. So overall it's got the looks, it's got the camera, and it's got the performance, but the screen, which is actually its theoretical selling point, is actually the weaker point, as well as the battery. It's not bright enough, doesn't have wide viewing angles as we like them, it doesn't have the contrast, so if you're in full sunlight you won't see anything on the screen, and it's like Sony is taking one step forward, two step back. It's a premiere, but the 4K feels like a gimmick because some people will rather not watch Netflix or 4K YouTube or 4K videos on this, considering how bad the battery is. In the end, it's a phone for the Sony fans who only care about the looks, the camera, the gaming and performance, but they rather forget about the 4K gimmick and have a quality phone which they can unlock using the side scanner. This is it from gsndom.com, a solid phablet dragged behind by its battery and maybe the screen, and the first 4K display handset out there. Bye bye.